And we're on the record.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. This is the Council on Access and Fairness June 2nd meeting, and I will let, is Lauren?
Yeah, Lauren?
Yes, yes. Welcome, council members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Council on Access and Fairness's meeting. Thank you for joining us. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. To use the raised hand feature by phone, dial *9 on your phone's dial pad to raise your hand, and do the same to lower your hand. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. All COAF meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference and to please be aware of your surroundings behind you. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select enable auto transcription. Tip for those using Zoom on a computer, when on mute, holding down the spacebar will temporarily unmute. If you use your phone to dial into this meeting, please be sure your computer's microphone is on mute to avoid audio feedback issues. While joining audio via computer is highly recommended, if an individual loses audio, they can call in separately using the Zoom conference number.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning again, everyone. I'm Judge Kristen Rosie. I'm the chair of this council, and it's lovely to see you all and to see some of you all together in Los Angeles. And I'm sorry that I can't be there with you. Elizabeth, I think we need to take roll to establish quorum, correct?
Yes.
Great.
Heather Anderson. Novella Coleman. Here. Ryan Harrison. Michael Rhodes.
Here.
Shalak Richards.
Here.
Angelica Salceda. Stephanie Santoro.
Here.
Sal Torres. Kristen Rosie.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So for public comment, you know, the State Bar asked that folks provide public comment before each meeting in writing. I understand that we received one written public comment and that comment was regarding the California bar exam. I'm guessing the changes there too. We forwarded that public comment to the Office of Admissions. Do we have anyone that we can see that wishes to make a public comment at this time?
Yes, we have a hand raised
Great,
and I'm allowing them to speak.
thank you.
Hello, this is Benjamin Cohn. At your last meeting, you heard a presentation on the testing accommodation rules revision initiative, and they had informed you they were making amendments to the proposal, but were not able to specify what those amendments were. Those amendments are about to go out for public comment again, and they still do not cure most of the most discriminatory aspects of the current rules, though they did get rid of some of the things that would have made those rules even worse than they are now. In particular, it is not committing to an initial decision on petitions within 2 weeks of receipt and keeps the up to 2 months, which is usually applied to at least 2 months to get a decision. This does not allow disabled applicants a fair opportunity to do exam prep unless they're rich enough to do it completely at risk. It also does not allow most of the time a decision to be made in time to do administrative appeals or judicial review. That the staff's response to most of the public comments in the last period asking for a time that gives equal opportunity, specifically 2 weeks processing time, was that they wanted to see if all the other revisions they're making allow them the capacity to have a particular time once it's in effect for 2 exam cycles, which means years from now, given that it takes years to go into effect and years to do a new rules revision. It shouldn't matter whether the other reforms make the staff able to do it without expanding staff capacity, because even if more staff capacity is needed, there should still be the rule amendment so that disabled applicants get equal opportunity. That should be part of this rules revision initiative. It also preserves a very short turnaround time. While the staff get months, the applicants still get only now a couple of weeks to turn around and appeal with all the materials they'll need from their doctors if they do get a decision in time to appeal. And this time the response for not giving applicants 30 days instead of the now 14 days is that 30 days if they apply at the deadline doesn't leave enough time to the bar exam, but that misses the fact that there's a separate deadline of the first business day of the month that's unchanged. And if they got 30 days, the applicants who apply early should still get the benefit of up to 30 days to get those materials from their doctor. It provides no collaborative hearing on the denials like moral character would-be denials would get to the committee of bar examiners, and it excludes from being even able to be individually considered a bunch of accommodations the state bar disfavors in violation of 28 CFR 35.160, while making others an exceptional needs standard for the doctors to even recommend it on the state bar's forms required for consideration. And that exceptional needs standard is in violation of Ninth Circuit law, providing a best ensures level playing field standard for all accommodations to get a rebuttable presumption subject to fundamental alteration or undue burden. For all of those reasons, I hope that you recommend to the Board of Trustees that the current proposal gets amended to have all those things before it's advanced, and that they do it before all at once rather than continually putting it out for public comment without fixing all the known flaws, forcing future amendments to need more public comment periods that delay it 6 months each time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohn. Shannon, do we have anybody else who wishes to make public comment at this time?
There are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move to our next item on the agenda to approve the minutes from our February 24th meeting. Are there any comments or edits on our meeting minutes from February? Seeing no one on my screen or any hands raised in Los Angeles, I will ask for a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. And a second?
A second.
Was that Heather?
Yes.
Hey, Heather.
Heather has joined us, and I also wanted to just acknowledge that we have Lauren Oakley from the California Lawyers Association, Judge Dulcich from the Judicial Council, and Sarah Good from our Board of Trustees present with us.
And I
Sorry to interrupt the motion.
no worries. All right. Elizabeth, we can take a roll call vote having a motion in a second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Harrison, Rhodes,
Yes.
Richards,
Yes.
Salceda, Santoro,
Yes.
Torres, Rosie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is the report from the chair. My report will be brief this morning, but I had and of course I'll have more comments on other stuff later, but I wanted to take a moment to share something with all of you. First, I want to thank each and every one of you who reached out to friends and colleagues, asking them to apply for COAF membership. We received an incredible 82 applications for COAF, excuse me, for our 4 positions. So 82 applications for 4 positions, which is, I'm guessing a record, Elizabeth. I don't want to speak out of turn.
Yes. I think so.
And so I want to thank everyone for reaching out to their friends and colleagues. I also want to thank Elizabeth personally for reviewing all 82 of those applications and paring that list down to 15 or so for Michael and I. I can't imagine that that was a small feat. I saw the list of 82 folks. And so thank you, Elizabeth, for doing that. I know I've said before that this council's work is vital to the State Bar's mission to diversify our profession. And so, you know, I want to just let you know, we received applications from all over the state, from attorneys and members of the public. And so thank you all for everything that you did to get a robust group of candidates for COAF next year. And that was all that I really had as far as chair remarks go. So Elizabeth, if you are ready to do your report.
Thank you, Kristen. And just for people's information, the board will make their appointments to COAF at their July meeting. For the staff report from the Office of Access and Inclusion, I also wanted to introduce Lauren McGarry. She is a new senior program analyst who joined our office just on Tuesday this week. And so we're really excited to have her participate in COAF. And so you will likely be seeing her in a future working group meeting and at future meetings. So welcome to Lauren.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to give an update on the law school fellowship program. That was a grant it's a grant that's being administered by the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, and they had invited members of COAF to participate in their review committee. So thank you to Novella and Kristen for all of your time, effort, and enthusiasm in reviewing those applications in quite a short time frame. The Trust Fund Commission has approved awards to fund 76 fellows at 37 organizations this summer. Many of them have already begun this week. We'll be dispersing about $760,000 to those law students this summer. For many of our grantees, this is the first time they're going to be able to compensate their law students. And some of them will be able to compensate their law students at a living wage for the first time. So this is really exciting in terms of pipeline into legal aid and into our profession. In addition, we're partnering with California Change Lawyers to provide support, training, and networking opportunities for this cohort of fellows. And Change Lawyers is generously contributing $150,000 to fund an additional 15 fellows. So that's a total of 91 for this first cohort. So we're hoping that with these additional supports, resources, and compensation this summer, these law students will go on to continue to have careers in public service and in legal aid. There will be some mixers and networking opportunities in Oakland, Los Angeles, and Sacramento this summer, and so for the fellows. And so I will send out the invitation and registration link to any COAF members who might be interested in attending.
Elizabeth, sorry, not to interrupt your report. I received some feedback on the actual process
Yes.
from both my law school and other law schools. I don't know if our meeting is the appropriate place I encourage them to just reach out to you directly.
I'm actually trying to schedule a meeting with law schools to receive the feedback
Yeah.
because we understand that the timing of the grant application process and awards announcements was very late in the process for this summer. And so we are hoping to have our application process for summer 2024 this fall.
Oh,
So
great.
I can, we're likely be scheduling a meeting in the next couple weeks, so I can, if you want to forward me those emails or you can forward my invitation email, we can figure that out.
Okay, great. And just so everyone knows, the substance of the feedback was that this is an amazing program. The law schools are very excited this is happening. And also, many law schools have internal stipends that they give to students doing public interest work. And for several of the ABA accredited law schools, those stipends require that the student disclose if they're receiving any external funding, and they decide the amount of the stipend to try to keep it fair to encourage more students to do it. And so they were concerned that students received a great amount of funding from, you know, their grantee, and then other students did not receive sort of the equitable share, or that students were discouraged from going into public interest because they didn't know that they could receive some funding. And so the schools just want to make sure that funding is balanced from their internal position, out. And so just wanting to collaborate on timing and them to have a better understanding of timing so that they can encourage more of their students to do public interest by using their internal resources wisely.
Thank you, Shalak.
Sorry to interrupt your report.
No, I was I was concluding my remarks.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's really good feedback, Shalak. And you know, I think Elizabeth talked about how it was a quick turnaround, and Novella and I will tell you, it was a quick turnaround. And so, but that's really good feedback to tweak that. I didn't realize that was the case. So that's really good information to have, especially because I think that this was the first time that we worked with, you know, another committee on something like this. And I think that it worked out really well. At least I feel like from COAS perspective, it did. I hope the Legal Service Trust Fund folks feel the same way, and I think they do.
Yeah, I think they do.
So, you know, if it, you know, we will continue to work, hopefully with them on this program. And it really was, you know, I'm sure Novella will echo that, being able to hand out that kind of money and fund 91 folks to do something this summer that's meaningful to them, you know, was pretty satisfying. All right, thank you, Elizabeth. We are moving to our regular calendar, unless anybody has something for Elizabeth before we do that. So Elizabeth, on our agenda, we have the update on the Blue Ribbon Commission on the future of the bar exam. Are we going to do this part now? I see that Sarah is here.
We're gonna do it at 1 p.m.
Okay. We're gonna
Amy
push
and
this up.
Audrey are available then.
Okay, fantastic. Then we are going to skip item 6.1 on our agenda and push that till this afternoon. And so we will go to the next item on the agenda, which is presentation and discussion on the unaccredited law school rules revision process. And I think that I saw Natalie earlier. There's Natalie. Hi, Natalie. Good to see you. Natalie is here to make a presentation on that.
Sure. Hi. Well, hello. I know some of you, but not everyone. My name is Natalie Leonard. I'm a principal program analyst in the Office of Admissions, and I work with law schools, primarily registered and accredited law schools, but also ABA schools as well. And I'm really happy to have the opportunity, first of all, to thank Kristen and Sarah for the work that they helped the Office of Admissions to do, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And also to invite some of the same participation in a new initiative that we're doing now related to the unaccredited rules. And I'm going to share my screen so we can talk a little bit more about that. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so The Office of Admissions is undergoing a periodic review of all of its rules in all of the different areas. We're looking for alignment with the State Bar's mission, review of relevant authority. We're wanting to consult with stakeholders like you and also others and incorporate the best practices that we see for me in law schools, but also in all of the aspects of admissions. And we're seeing a lot of changes in these areas coming out of the pandemic, determining what was done to get through that period and what have we learned, what should we keep, what should we ideate that's new that wasn't there before, and what should we stop doing? So this has been a very active and exciting process this time. And just to make sure everyone's on the same page, there are 4 ways to pursue the legal education that you need to get ready to take the bar exam. That's part of the licensure process. You can attend an ABA approved school, whether in California or elsewhere. You can attend through law office study, an apprentice with a judge or an attorney. You can attend a CalBar accredited school. Trivia question, CalBar has been accrediting schools since 1927, pretty much as long as we've been a state bar. Or you can also attend a registered unaccredited law school. And I add the word registered, which is not part of the title, because a school is not automatically unaccredited. It actually has to register and meet the rules standards to have the privilege to grant degrees and to qualify students for the bar exam in California. For the ABA schools, those rules are maintained by the American Bar Association out of Chicago. The State Bar defers to those rules and that status. Law Office Study is operated by our eligibility unit of the admissions office. Their rules were recently revised and they're being implemented this year. Our California accredited law schools, sometimes abbreviated as CALS, they are in the process of a 2-year implementation of new rules. They were implemented last year. Schools have 2 years to phase them in, and then the unaccredited rules process is just starting. So unaccredited law school is the point of entry for most of these local schools when they start in California. The standards are more flexible. The standards are for a newer or generally a smaller school. CALs have more minimum performance standards, and many of them are also accredited by regional or national accreditors. We had a lot of help from Kristen and also from Sarah in putting together the accredited rules. And we were very excited to include for the first time a section of the rules on diversity, equity, and inclusion. The missions for both the registered and the accredited schools really are to provide access for people from different backgrounds, different geographies, different points in their lives. That's always been true with these schools, but there never had been a specific requirement before. And now one of the 4 sections in the accredited rules is focused around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you can see that here. So we just received the school's preliminary plans through their most recent reports, and that might be something interesting to summarize for COAF, thinking about it in the future. Some of the specific elements that they were asked to include were an anti-discrimination policy, which has always been part of the rules, but also specific policies about how to create an inclusive and diverse law school environment and experience, and then also how to access diversity programs and partnerships, not only in the school, but out in the community, and there is a measurement requirement. So we're very excited to see how that will work. Thinking ahead to the unaccredited rules process, the first step is the step that we are in now. Committee volunteers and staff are reviewing the rules against the various other, areas like the statutory authority. We've been working with some of the trade groups that are involved in education and establishing what's been going on in the face of the pandemic. And then also just looking at how to make sure that the rules are clear, efficient, effective, and easy, not only for the schools, but for the public to understand so they know what the various types of schools offer. And I think there are several points of feedback where COAF could be helpful, individual or as a body, and you may have other ideas. What we did with the accredited rules was we sought volunteers from COAF. We had both Sarah and Kristen help us, and they came to the CS BAR's meetings. They helped us to review sections of the materials. They provided really helpful edits, but they also were able to talk with CS BARs and also to give us information to share with the committee to help understand why the choices were made that they were, and to create a really positive environment to welcome in these new changes. If you are interested in working with the committee volunteers in the staff review, we meet once a week, but you might come as your schedule allows, and we can tell you what we'll be studying each week, and you can determine where your interest might be. We do these generally via Zoom, and then we will have the CS BARS meetings in a noticed format, kind of like this. And the hope is through both of those steps to create a proposal later this year or early next year that the Committee of Bar Examiners can look at before sending it to the Board of Trustees. So that's what we've prepared for you. We don't have the substance of the rules yet, but that is actually, in fact, why we're here. We want you here on the ground floor. It was so helpful to have involvement before that we wanted to begin the conversation right at the start.
Great. Thank you, Natalie. And Elizabeth, do you want me to solicit volunteers now?
Or actually, Heather has a question.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry,
Um,
Heather, I can't see the.
I know, and I'm trying to find the right space so you can see me on the
If you lean
camera.
back, I can see you.
If I scoot all the way back. I thank you so much. That was very helpful and interesting, Natalie. I am curious on the proposed DEI role, the section of it that encourages an inclusive or requires, I hope, an inclusive and diverse law school environment. If we've gotten any feedback from law schools of how they are going to balance that against tenured professors who may not be creating those kinds of environments under the guise of First Amendment and free speech, because I think that that tension is going to need to be addressed.
I think that is a possibility. I think that it may be a lesser concern for these groups of schools versus the ABA schools, because these schools are generally staffed by a faculty that are also practitioners. So they generally would not have tenured professors, and they generally would not have full-time professors. These are often more practice oriented. They may be currently in practice, or they may be taking a break to teach and planning to go back. And so far, we haven't seen those sorts of tensions, but as part of this, both prior to the rules and now, we do track the diversity of the faculty. We ask that DEI factors be part of the faculty evaluations in order to continue to teach. And that's what we know so far.
Will there be something equivalent for accredited schools?
That's what we have for the accredited right now. For the unaccredited, I think that is contemplated, but there's not a proposal on the floor. And so most likely, yes. And we'd like your feedback on that too.
This is Shellac. Question which maybe because this is already being implemented, but I'm curious, the measurement piece, and I saw that it mentioned retention and graduation. Does it also mention or contemplate bar passage and employment? And if it's not for the accredited, perhaps that might be something to consider for the registered unaccredited schools, that DEI measurement include the bar passage, both for the first year, I forget the proper name, the baby
First year,
bar.
last student examination.
I was trying not to use the, but both for that and the bar exam and prospective employment, with the idea that if these are the schools that are mostly the entry point for historically underrepresented and or people from various socioeconomic classes, that they are able to get the job that they're going to school for. And I think that might be particularly pertinent for the unaccredited schools that might be smaller and may seem like a more accessible entry point for some people.
Mhm. And I think, the key part is in that measurement is the disaggregation. So for the accredited roles, there's a minimum overall pass rate for the bar exam. The first year law students exam is generally not required of most of the students in these accredited law schools. So there's not a specific measurement related to that. And right now they do a 3-year trailing placement average of all students as a total. So 3 years out, year 1, year 2, year 3, are they in a JD advantage or are they in a JD required position? And so part of what this measurement is getting at is to try to tease out not only at the class level, but also digging deeper by category. And to support that, we also have increased the categories for both accredited and registered schools in which we collect data for not only for students that stay, but students that depart the law school. And we're in the process of creating a report in concert with Elizabeth's team about law school retention that we'll be sharing, and I'm sure that we're going to bring it back here too. So yes, we do hope this is the beginning of that conversation. This measurement step is that first push. And we hope to be doing it in the unaccredited schools too, but they can be much, much smaller, anywhere from 10 to a few hundred students.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Thank you, Heather and Shalak, for that. Any other questions for Natalie about this? I can tell you, and Sarah can probably chime in as well if she'd like. Having worked, this is actually something I worked on in probably maybe all 4 of the years that I've been on COAF. It is something I knew nothing about going in, and now know way more than thought, and perhaps much to Natalie's chagrin. I have asked a lot of questions and on these issues, much as Heather and Shalak have. So thank you for your work on this, Natalie. It is very important, and I'm sure Sarah, she's nodding the head like,
I would be very interested in volunteering for
Great,
this, Natalie.
great.
I can't see if that's
It's
Shalak.
I think it was
Shalak.
Shalak, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
So, yeah, and if anybody else is interested, if you want to let me know.
I'd be happy to keep working on it too.
Okay, great. So Natalie, we have Kristen and Shalak on the team.
And if
That's
anybody
terrific.
else wants to do it, I'm happy to. I don't know if we can take one more, or I'll push myself off, but.
And I'm going to say the best thing is that I was so appreciative of Sarah's and Kristen's engagement. Rules don't sound exciting sometimes in certain ways, but they are the bedrock that will determine where schools spend their time and their focus in order to keep operating. So I really would encourage you to think about it if you have the interest, because this is a place where you can make a large and lasting impact. One of many, from what I hear, even just a few minutes observing today. So give it some thought, and I'd love to work with anyone who's available.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Natalie.
Okay. Next on our agenda was going to be a presentation and discussion on the attorney census. I believe, Elizabeth, we are going to table this until our December meeting, since the next revisions won't be until 2025.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Anybody have concerns about tabling this? Good. Seeing none, I will move on to the update and discussion on the DEI Leadership Seal program. And I think that is Danielle. There's Danielle. Hi, Danielle. Danielle's going to give us an update on that.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I will go ahead and share my screen to give the update and lead the discussion on the DEI Leadership Seal program. If you all are amenable, I will leave it in this form rather than full screen so that I can view my notes. But if you need it a little larger, just let me know. So as a reminder, or as many of you know, last year we developed a DEI Leadership Seal program with the goal to encourage all legal employers to publicly commit to and implement several different steps to advance DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the legal profession. And we did this by creating a SEAL program, which would be available to all legal employers in the state, regardless of sector. The program includes a list of 10 action items and asks employers to commit to implementing at least 5 of those action items in the workplace. They would then have a year to implement those action items, and once implemented, would be recognized as DEI Leadership Seal recipients. The employers that implement 5 or more would be bronze tier recipients. Those that implemented 7 would be silver tier, and those that implement 9 would be gold tier recipients. And since the last update, the program was officially launched and applications were released in January of this year. The State Bar conducted outreach to various employers across the state via email blasts to stakeholders, technical assistance emails to interested applicants, meetings with and presentations to various employers, and so forth. And the application period for the first cohort of participating employers closed March 31. And for that first cohort, the State Bar received 79 applications, which we were very excited about. And those applications were split. Employers were able to apply as either committed employers, they were committing to 5 or more of those action items, or if they had already implemented and could demonstrate their implementation of 5 or more of those action items, they could apply as implemented applicants, if you will, and pending verification of their documentation and their implementation could actually receive the DEI Leadership Seal now, rather than waiting the full year implementation window. So of those 79 applications, 43 of those were folks that were committing to implementing at least 5 of the action items, and 36 were from employers that reported having already implemented at least 5 of the action items. A team of 5 State Bar staff members have spent the last several months reviewing each of those implemented applicants using a shared scoring rubric, and that review has included verifying their submitted documentation that demonstrates their implementation and requesting follow-up as needed. For almost every application that we've reviewed, there's been some level of follow-up to make sure that we understand and feel comfortable with their implementation of the various action items. So that's been a great kind of back and forth conversation with the applying organizations. We plan to finalize our review really in the next couple days and announce the list of participating employers and SEAL recipients in the coming weeks. And so as you can see here, this chart is showing applications both implemented and committed by sector. Most applicants were from the private sector. The vast majority of those were law firm applicants, but there also were a small number of in-house counsel departments, and I believe one corporation that actually was applying for the full corporation, not just their legal department. The next largest group here is nonprofits, including many of the State Bar's legal aid grantees. And additional applicants included a handful of government employers, including the State Bar and one law school. If you then look at, these are implemented applicants. These are folks that are saying we have already implemented 5 or more of the action items. We can look at those implemented applicants by tier, by gold, silver, and bronze tier. And you'll see there's a relatively even spread among those that applied. If you kind of add up all the golds, add up all the silvers, they're relatively even. I think it's about 12 gold, 14 silver, and like 9 or 10 bronze. So relatively even spread, which is great to see as well. And then as far as next steps, as I mentioned earlier, we're finalizing the list of participating employers and SEAL recipients really in the next couple days, and plan to announce that list in early June. We are also planning to have quarterly touch points to support the committed participating employers as they implement these action items over the next year. And this support, we are planning to have that include a diversity summit that we'll plan to host this fall, probably in October. We would appreciate 2 volunteers from COAF to serve on a working group for that diversity summit. So we would take those volunteers now, or you can reach out to Elizabeth at a later time. And we're also planning to continue to promote the program and work toward adding additional program benefits. I'll also mention the Board of Trustees wants this program to be cost neutral moving forward. So future cycles will likely charge a fee for at least private sector applicants. And so that's something we'll need to discuss and kind of assess what that fee should be. And so we'll likely reconvene the Leadership Seal Working Group, which, as a reminder, was Heather, Ryan, and Michael before the next application cycle to get their feedback on that point. But we'd also at this point love to get the entire group's thoughts on how we can best market the program to additional employers, leverage potential benefits to employers, and really just continue to get this program out there and keep forward this great momentum that we have thus far. So that is the end of my prepared remarks, but happy to hear the group's feedback. Any thoughts, questions, happy to take those.
It's me.
Does anyone have questions for Danielle? Thank you, Danielle, for that.
Heather does.
Not a question, but I volunteer to work on the diversity summit planning for the duration of my term.
Great.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
And then I see Novella, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the presentation. It's cool that so many different types of organizations applied. For the questions that you've had with the implemented applicants, I was just curious, like what types of questions they're asking, whether it's just like verifying paperwork requirement or if any of it's like asking for expert matter expertise or assistance.
So just to make sure I'm understanding your question, are you asking what questions we have for the employers while we're doing that follow-up? Or are you asking what questions are we receiving from employers that are applying to the program? Both. Okay, great. So as part of the application process for each action item, if they selected that it was implemented, there was a little blurb about what they needed to provide to the state bar to verify that implementation. So that could look like, for example, there's an action item around having a DEI strategic plan. And so we asked for them to submit the DEI strategic plan and identify one goal in the strategic plan and explain what steps they've taken towards implementing or moving on that action in the DEI strategic plan. And each of the action items had some sort of kind of narrative explanation, if not actual documentation of what are you doing in this space? What is this analysis, this data analysis, for example, look like? How are you collecting this data on turnover, promotions, whatever the action item was? And so sometimes our follow-up questions to the employers were getting additional information if, for example, they said, we collect this data annually, but they didn't tell us when they analyze it. Like we had a scoring rubric that said for each action item, they should have a narrative that answers, these 4 questions. And sometimes just if there's 4 or 5 questions across 6, 7, 8 action items, there's inevitably a question that went unanswered. So sometimes it's just getting those answers and making sure all of the requested information is in their packet. As far as questions that we have received from employers before the application window closed, I think some of those questions were around, does this meet the requirements of the action item? Would this work? And those sorts of questions. We, as a state bar, have tried to stay away from making value judgments on like the strength of an organization's DEI strategic plan, for example, but have tried to provide resources where we can on what a DEI strategic plan could look like, and actually put together a resource guide for interested employers to point them to some external resources on how to implement some of the action items well, without us needing to be the deciders on whether or not they have implemented it well. Does that answer your question?
Thanks.
Of course. And Elizabeth, would you add anything else? Because Elizabeth was also on the review team.
No, I think that's comprehensive. Thank you.
Stephanie, sorry, I was muting myself.
Hi, Danielle. Thanks for the presentation. I was just curious, the point about media, strategy for media to publish the cohorts. Stepping back a bit, what was done to reach out to firms in different sectors and whatnot to have them apply? And is the plan to then publish via the same routes?
Sure. So one, I will caveat and say that I was on parental leave from January until about 2 weeks ago. So some of that I was out of the office for, but I can speak to what the plan was as I was leaving and let Elizabeth fill in any gaps that I may have. But when we launched the program and announced the program, that we did that via State Bar press release, social media campaign, was on LinkedIn, for example. And also there is a page on the State Bar website about the leadership seal, linked to the application, linked to that resource guide I referenced. So it was very much web-based and social media based in originally getting the program out there. We also sent email blasts to various lists of stakeholders that we have and maintain. So COAF members received an email when it went out. Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, I believe maybe the Board of Trustees for the State Bar also received an email blast. And then we also sent emails to prior Diversity Summit attendees and participants. So really any lists that we had internally around folks that have expressed interest in the DEI space for the State Bar in the past, try to get it out that way as well. And so I believe we would use the same or similar channels as we continue to promote the program. But if there are other ideas that folks have that we can leverage, we are certainly happy and open to hearing those.
We also add, after we had done that initial kind of email social media push, we received requests from various law firms and other employers to present to their leadership, or to we received a couple from local bar associations, so we presented to their leadership more about the program. I think we will probably circle back now that we have a cohort to talk a little bit more about it and how kind of the application process went to maybe support those local bar association members in encouraging their employers to apply.
Danielle and Elizabeth, what's the plan to roll out after you make your announcement? What's the plan to roll out media-wise to sort of, congratulate the folks who've done it and publicize that?
Sure. So we are actually meeting with our communications counterparts in the next week, I think next Wednesday, to really nail down the details of that. But I suspect it will include listing those folks on the State Bar website on those existing pages, releasing a press release to proactively get that information out there, using the same social media channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. We also have talked about using a video program called Vouch, or a video platform that would allow participating employers and leadership seal recipients to submit a short little video about how their organization is implementing the action items, and then we can use those short videos on those social media platforms as well. But the first initial kind of announcement, I suspect, will be via press release and social media.
Okay, great.
Heather has a comment.
As a follow-up on the press release, do we think there was a local news story here too, once the seal recipients are announced, that they can carry that as which then would be digital and linear and create some footage that we can repurpose too. And then do we plan to share it with law schools and say these are companies, organizations and stuff that you might want to encourage your students to apply to because, okay, so that.
Yeah, one of our plans is to reach, because as you know, we have a lot of contact with law schools. So one of our plans is to reach out to law schools to see if we can have some kind of, I don't know, preferred job board or, you know, some statement about the SEAL program with the career services and to encourage law students to seek out these employers.
Yeah, maybe those
Preferred jobs
employers
for
get
you.
invited to speak at the law schools or something like at the career center, so they get more visibility to those law students because they earned it through the SEAL program. So.
Michael, is that your hand?
It is. This is similar to Heather's idea, which is to the extent that there are career fairs, either with law schools or it's a little different because we're California specific, but with different diversity bar organizations, if they have career fairs that we could share the information and maybe that would get some interest from other organizations that aren't participating because they want to show their commitment to DEI as well, especially with those types of organizations.
Yeah, I was thinking especially at the public interest career fairs that we know, you know, there's one in Northern California and one in Southern California. Novella and I learned a lot about them. That, you know, that seems like a great place to be showcasing some of that stuff.
One other is there's an organization I know, I don't know them as well. There's a San Diego and I think San Francisco, but here in LA, it's LALRA, the Los Angeles. It's essentially an association of law firm and law school career and recruiting people. And so that would be almost every, at least ABA accredited law school is a member of that in like the sort of LA area, Irvine, et cetera. And then there are most of the larger law firms are members of that as well. And so that would be as well a good organization potentially. I think the next meeting is in December, but I can find out and see if I can get like an invite for the state bar to be able to just present briefly to them about this, because that would hit both the career services people going, oh, this is important, and then the couple firms that aren't part of it might feel shame if they're not mentioned, and all the others are, right? And so both the public interest side and the that private law firm sector side would be hit through those.
Great.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Please remind
Heather,
me.
do you have your hand up again? Back there?
Please remind me, did we determine, or is there like a physical award?
No, I mean, yes, we determined that there is not a physical award.
There's like something they can put on their
Yeah,
website.
they're gonna get
or
like a little
something?
kit so that they have like digital.
But there's not a trophy for
There's
the
not,
trophy
no,
case?
no.
Not even for gold?
No, unfortunately, as Danielle mentioned, the board does want to, at this time, wants to keep it cost neutral. So we are very carefully tracking the staff time we're spending on it. And then, you know, going to look at like for the next 5 years, you know, what we might be able to do. And if we charged a fee, how that might change things.
Maybe we can think about a way that COAF can also, not in a physical award, because I get we're not giving awards, but maybe, you know, maybe COAF can also, you know, recognize them in some way, or at least talk about it at our next meeting in August, to acknowledge those folks at the meeting.
Right. And just speaking of recognition, I did want to note that the State Bar is receiving an award for its work on the DEI Leadership Seal by One Justice, which is a statewide support center in California.
Yay.
Yeah, so thank you again to our working group, Heather, Michael, Brian, and to Danielle and our staff for all the work that went into this. I feel particularly proud of this project because it was just an idea 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and then for us to be able to get this far and have what I think is a very successful first cohort of applicants is lightning speed for us here at the State Bar. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And can you remind me, Elizabeth and Danielle, when applications will be submitted for the second cohort?
We have not finalized that, but we are anticipating that because we had such a strong cohort the first time, we'll wait until next spring to do the next application cycle.
I just want to make sure that the firms that Shellac is talked about getting shamed have a date when they can apply for. And so do we anticipate doing it sort of every spring?
I think that is the plan. Yes.
Great. Great. Well, we should, this was a COAF idea. And like the many, many, many other amazing COAF ideas, we should all take, some pride in that it was just an idea that we came up with. And so thank you all for your hard work on it, especially Danielle and Elizabeth. This is something that we should be proud of, and and I know that some of the folks on this leadership SEAL committee are set to roll off in September. And so for folks who will remain with COAF, please reach out to Elizabeth and Danielle about continuing the work that Heather and Michael and Ryan started. So that's my encouragement for that. Anybody else have anything else on the leadership SEAL? Seeing no one, we will move on then to an update on addressing retention in the legal profession through LRAP. And I think Erica, I saw Erica.
Oh, actually, it's me.
Oh, it's you. Oh, right.
Yes.
You told me it was you. You're right, because Erica can't make it. Thank you. Yes, please, Elizabeth. Tell us more.
As you all know, COAF in partnership with the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and the Access to Justice Commission have been working on a statewide LRAP proposal. There were big hopes to be funded through the state budget for 2023, but unfortunately that was removed from the budget before the governor signed it in. So for this next budget cycle, the Access Commission has put forth a proposal, and we hope to continue to partner with them. And so the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission will be discussing it at their next meeting later in June. But we do believe that we'll be able to kind of continue on developing a statewide LRAP program, and we'll be convening the working group a little bit later this summer. I think one of the things that I think COAF would be most interested in is if we're able to launch a statewide LRAP program, the data that we can collect to hopefully show kind of how effective this can be for our pipeline and for diversity in our profession. So more to come. I am hoping that our working group, Kristen and Heather, will be able to participate this summer in those discussions.
I won't speak for Heather, but I am certain that that she will.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm speaking for Heather, but I won't speak for Heather. But she will. And so will I. Okay, any questions for Elizabeth about LRAP? Okay, seeing none. Elizabeth, I think you're also on deck next for an update on the early pipeline to the profession with.
Yes, so we were able to film another outreach video with Lucasfilm in March. So thank you, Heather, for helping to coordinate that. It was really amazing. I was able to watch Heather, Ryan, and Rhonda Hort film this wonderful interview. And I was so delighted at just how natural it was, and they hit all the points that I didn't even tell them to hit. So I believe we're in the kind of finalizing stage, getting approvals and that sort of thing. And so hopefully we'll be able to launch that this summer.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing the approvals happening in real time, so it may be coming to you all really soon to Elizabeth for deliver.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in the home stretch.
I saw some pictures not of in Disney or ESPN studios, because that would not be allowed. But I did see pictures of everyone, and you all look sharp. So I look forward to seeing the video. Hopefully we'll be able to show it at our next meeting in August, right? We should be done.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. I
Yeah.
think we can do that.
Right. So hopefully we can show it to everyone. If you haven't seen it by the time of our next meeting, we'll be able to roll that out. So thank you, Elizabeth, and Ryan's not here, but I'll thank him anyway. And most especially Heather. This was a brainchild of Ryan and Heather's way back when we first started years ago on COAF. And so, and the first one was so amazing, and I'm certain that this one will be as well. So thank you for all your hard work on that. Any questions for them on the video? Seeing no one and seeing Alexa, we will move on to the next item, which is an update on the licensee resource page, including the imposter syndrome resources. And
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Bear with me 1 second while I share my screen. Are we all able to see the PowerPoint? Great, perfect. So yeah, my name is Alexa Montalvo, and I am a program analyst with the Office of Access and Inclusion. And today I'll be sharing with you the working group on imposter syndrome's work in progress to develop a toolkit of resources on imposter syndrome. So to begin, I wanted to provide some background on what imposter syndrome is and how this effort came about. The imposter syndrome is defined as a term that describes high-achieving individuals who, despite their objective successes, cannot internalize their success, which leads to feelings of self-doubt related to one's intellect, skills, or accomplishments. The need to address imposter syndrome in the legal profession arose from the State Bar strategic plan to support retention, development, and advancement of a diverse legal profession, with a focus on preventative measures to address disproportionate complaint and discipline rates. One of the activities to support this is to create, as was mentioned, a licensee research page on the State Bar website to provide information and tools on emerging topics and issues, which include navigating imposter syndrome in the workplace. So to support this initiative, COAF created a working group comprised of COAF members and State Bar staff with guidance from staff at UC Davis and UC Davis School of Law to develop a toolkit with resources on how to address and combat imposter syndrome. And before we jump into the progress that the working group has made, I wanted to acknowledge and name the working group members contributing to this project. So thank you to COAF members Ryan Harrison, Shalak Richard, and Stephanie Chu Santoro, and to State Bar staff Elizabeth Hom, Program Director with the Office of Access and Inclusion, and Kathy Ongiri, Managing Attorney in the Office of Professional Competence. And we were also really lucky and grateful to get support, as I mentioned before, from UC Davis staff, specifically Professor Bruce Haynes, who's a professor of sociology, and Director of Diversity and Student Life, Alexis Elston, with UC Davis School of Law. They provided a lot of great support in terms of guiding us through what imposter syndrome looks like for different folks and guiding us through resources, which was super helpful in our process. So at an overview, after meeting about 3 times this year in February, March, and May, we were discussing what kind of resources to include in the toolkit, what it would look like, and things like that. So we kind of came to the goal of including resources such as articles, worksheets, and video testimonials in the toolkit. And this would be available to or geared towards the legal profession as a whole, with focuses towards attorneys and law school students. So we made a lot of efforts to make sure we found resources that cover an array of topics and bases that would apply to both demographics. And as of right now, the working group is in the process of finalizing the selection of resources with the goal to complete the toolkit and go live on the State Bar website by the summer, which is really exciting. And in case there was any questions, I wanted to leave time for that, but I would be happy to stop sharing my screen.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'm
Liz.
not sure if any of the working group members want to add any comments, but I am really grateful for all of the feedback and work that they put into this. Personally, it's been a really fascinating topic to work on, and I think helped me combat my own imposter syndrome. So I found it really helpful in that way.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Thank you, Alexa. I agree. I think that the resources, although they haven't been finalized, I was really impressed with the breadth. It really spans a range of kind of a little more intellectual to kind of more practical, just giving you a blurb of the definition and then different techniques that you can use to combat it. There's like kind of, a checklist of some of the things, characteristics or traits that are common to imposter syndrome. So I agree. If I had had this early on in my career, I probably would have done a lot better. So I think it's great. Oh, you know what, Alexa, I don't know if you mentioned, did you talk about the video testimonial thing?
I touched on it, but I didn't get to go into it. But I think that's an exciting portion if you would like to speak to that.
Oh, sure. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're in the process of, if anybody wants to spread the word, if you know of any attorneys in any part of their profession, if they would be interested in doing a short, I don't know, 1-minute testimonial. I don't really know what the time limit is. Kind of maybe talking about their own personal experience with imposter syndrome. We're collecting that, and I think the idea is to have that as a link somewhere or kind of a little montage somewhere on the State Bar website.
And I would add.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. Yeah.
And thank you, Stephanie, for bringing that up. I would add that we're looking for a diverse range of attorneys, not just, race, ethnicity, and other demographics, but also, years out of law school, because we've gotten some great ideas about judges and other attorneys who are really accomplished in their careers. But I think as, a law graduate, that might feel just very far away. And so, if you know of any newer grads or attorneys, 1 to 3, 1 to 5 years out that might be interested or available to participate, that would be really great.
Please.
Heather?
Is there a blurb that we can quickly share with our networks to?
We can get you one.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, I can forward you the email that I sent to
Oh, great.
I emailed a couple of people before I wanted to submit their names because I didn't want to submit someone and then be like, I'm not comfortable, but I really just said hey, I'm on this thing with the State Bar, they're doing this. I thought that you would be great for whatever reason to talk about how you became an attorney and the moments where it might be hard for you to see yourself in the profession.
Yeah. And
So I'm happy to forward that to you because I didn't want to go into the whole blah, 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 this is what it is and whatever, right? But just this is the general, and if you're okay with me passing your name on, then I'm gonna send it to these people rather than the inverse.
okay, I would love that.
Okay.
And my second question is, do they have to be barred in California?
I think preferably, yes.
Okay.
Suggestion.
Yes, Michael.
You've probably already thought of this, but I don't know if CLA has it, but I know a lot of county bars have the new lawyers associations embedded within them. That could be a good place to find.
Great. That's a great idea.
Lauren, are you listening? I don't know if Lauren is by her computer, but there she is. Did you hear that, Lauren?
So Lauren, we may reach out to you to help us spread the word.
This is why we have liaisons, everyone.
You got it.
Or just
I just wanted to commend Alexa and Kathy in particular for their very hard work on this and knowing that it was really I think Ryan brainchild that Stephanie and I latched onto, but they have really embraced it, and it's been a pleasure to not only do you keep us gently moving along, Alexa, but also to see you really wrap into you mentioned what this meant, the impact on you personally, and I can see how that's going to translate, and I think be very, very impactful for generations of attorneys and the legal profession as a whole. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with you all.
We are ahead of schedule, and so I'm going to take a second to say something now, because I think it's relevant. And then Sarah will be so pleased to see that we are ahead of schedule, because I know she likes a really efficient meeting. I want to say this, all of us are involved in lots of organizations and on lots of committees, and myself included. I don't know if any of you took the time to read COAF's sort of annual report to the legislature, but there is no group of people that gets more done, no group of people that I can think that gets more done than this group. We are 10, actually we're 9 right now because we lost Sarah, and the state bar, and this plus the state bar staff, and this group really achieves so much so fast, and there is so much to be proud of. And this is again another brainchild of COAF that's going to help so many people, like the LRAP and like the videos and like the SEAL and the diversity summits. We do so much, and I want to just say, because it is it's been an honor to be on this group for the last 4 years and to chair it for the last year. But really, I hope that you all know how hard all of your committee members are working, how hard the state bar staff is working to support this council, and really, I hope that everyone takes a minute to be really proud of how much we're doing, because we're not all the way through our agenda, and there's still more things to talk about that we've gotten accomplished. So I just wanted to say that, because I know we all do so much. But this is a group that I hope everyone is especially proud to be a part of. So that is my moment that I took to thank you all. And we are ahead of schedule. We are going to break for lunch now, Elizabeth.
Yes.
And come back at 1.
That's right.
Okay, so we're coming back at 1. Sarah, I'm ahead of schedule. I know how much you like it when I'm ahead of schedule, so I wanted you to know that. All right, so everyone take a nice long lunch, and then I will see everyone at 1, and we will get through the rest of our agenda pretty quickly as well, I think.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
taco bar.